I'll talk about my brother in traffic meetings.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending the Town of Amherst Traffic Safety Board meeting. Today is Wednesday, December 4th, 2024. For those that are here on the microphones on the board, please make sure that you're speaking into the microphone so that the recording system picks everything up, and for any people that we have watching live on YouTube, that we are being heard. The first order of business tonight, I'd like to introduce the members of the board. I am Eric Frost, Chairman, and I'll let the other members introduce themselves.
Greg Dion, Vice Chair.
Cynthia Selden, member.
Maxwell Kahn, member.
Nick Alterio, member.
Francis Knapp, member.
Kevin Cantwell, board member.
And we also have department liaisons with us this evening, if we want to introduce ourselves.
Chuck versus Police Department. Bill Prudhoe, the Building Department. Scott Marshall, Planning Department. Al Swope, Highway Department.
And we also have, oh, sorry, Chris.
Chris Regal, Engineering Department, Traffic Safety Coordinator.
And I'm Councilman Mike Sukala, liaison to the committee.
So before we go any further, just need to let you know that should an emergency alarm sound in the building, the emergency exits are to my left, your right. Please leave the room and proceed to the front or rear of the building to the exits, and you should not use the elevators if the alarm is sounding. First order of business this evening is to review the minutes from our prior meetings. Unfortunately, the minutes were not ready for the October meeting at the November meeting. So first order of business is to approve the October minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Any comments first?
I'd like to make I got something to add to it. I gotta find
Okay.
the page here, just a moment. Here we go, on page 4, second paragraph, second line from the bottom.
This one?
No, second line from the top, I'm sorry.
This one.
Yeah, that. Well, no, it's the second paragraph, second line from the bottom on that one. Where it says, right in, right out only. I'm thinking we should put from Brentwood onto Maine there. Right in, right out, and this is the second line from the bottom of that paragraph.
Right in, right out only.
From Brentwood onto Maine.
On to Maine.
Yeah. It just makes it clearer. And you want to capitalize the B there.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Any additional comments? None being heard, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make it.
Motion by Kevin, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Greg. Any further conversation? None being heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Dan, you voting?
Voting in favor of minutes, to approve the minutes? Okay, so we have 7 yes, no 0, 1 abstain. And joining us this evening as well is Dan Ryder, another member of the board. That gives us 8 members for this evening. Next order of business is the review of the November meeting minutes. Are there any notes, changes, or comments from the board? None being heard, I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Second from Kevin. Any further discussion? None being heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Any opposed? Motion carried 8-0. All right, moving on to this evening's agenda. Just go over a few ground rules for the meeting for those in the audience this evening. Just so everyone is aware, this board does not have lawmaking authority. Members of this board are volunteers who are appointed by the town board, serving as an advisory capacity to the town of Amherst. Liaisons are here to support and advise the board and have their respective departments act on recommendations made by this board that do not require legal action. Should the board make a recommendation that requires legal action, a motion would be made and voted on, and that motion would then pass on to Councilmember Zukala that will take that action and put it before the town board for that legal action to be taken. As we close each agenda item, we'll provide you with information regarding the next steps. In order for the concerns of those in the audience to be heard, we do not go through the agenda in the order that it's printed on the paper. We will go through the order of the agenda the way that people have signed in. Once everyone that is present in the room has had their opportunity to go through their items, we will then go through the order of the agenda for the remaining items. All residents in the audience will have an opportunity to speak. Just be aware that we were all provided packets of any correspondence, copies, anything that you've had with the town. So anything that you've already shared with the town, there's no reason to reiterate those comments to us. You can come up to the microphone. We ask that you do speak into the microphone so that the recording system and for anybody streaming and watching on YouTube can hear you, and state your name and address when you come up to the microphone. And you'll be provided 3 minutes to speak during the public comment period. Do we have the bell this evening? We have the bell this evening, so after about 2.5 minutes, we'll give you a single ding of the bell to let you know you have about 30 seconds remaining. After that, you'll get a double bell letting you know that your time is up. And then just for some other information so you're aware of it, this board is required to follow the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, known as the MUTCD. It's a document issued by the federal government along with the New York State Supplement. This document provides uniformity, allowing road users to know what to expect. We cannot make recommendations that go against the MUTCD, so we may refer to that during the conversations that we have this evening, and those are the guidelines that we are required to follow. The speed limit in the town is 30 miles per hour. Anything posted below 30 miles per hour will take legal action by the town board in order to reduce it below 30 miles per hour. There are speed zones and other things are the only exceptions right now to the 30 mile per hour limit. And then last two things are stop signs, just so you are aware, are traffic control devices, not speed control devices. If you want more information on that, I encourage you to Google it when you go home tonight on the internet, and you'll find the difference and what the stop signs are for. We may get into it depending on the agenda items this evening. And finally, when it comes to speed humps, speed bumps, and other traffic control other speed control devices such as humps, bumps, and speed tables, the town of Amherst at this point has not installed any of them, and the town has not taken any action to install any of them. This board is in favor of their use. However, there is opposition from the highway department, from emergency response, and other entities to put a plan in place. So until that is resolved within the town, we are happy to take note. We are happy to discuss them. However, there has been no action by the town to actually install them up until this point. So with that, our first order of business this evening for somebody signed in is for item number 3 on the agenda, which is Steinway Court, request for no standing on the corners of Maple Road. And I'll turn it over to Chris to give us the background information on this item.
Thank you, Chairman. This item came via an email to the engineering department where a resident of Steinway Court is requesting that the intersection of Maple and Steinway be posted as a no standing zone, specifically on Steinway Court, on both sides of Steinway in approaching the intersection, as well as turning off of Maple, for a distance of approximately 35 feet. More specifically, as you look on the screen, there are 2 lampposts that are directly across from each other. The resident explains that would be an ideal location to post the signage that would be then pointing northerly towards Maple, prohibiting the standing of vehicles. He goes on to say that it creates a hazard if both private and commercial vehicles that are parking there create a hazard for, it bottlenecks, it throats down that roadway and causes safety concern, particularly for those that are traveling along Maple going 45 and turning into Steinway. Further saying that it's exacerbated by the fact that parents are parking in this area to drop off their kids and watch them exit the school buses as well as enter the school buses. So for that reason, the resident is requesting that a no standing zone be signed on both sides. In terms of information gathered and provided, there is no crash data recorded in the past 5 years in this section. And furthermore, we took some more accurate measurements just to assist you should you want to act on this. It's actually 58 feet from the curb line to those posts, and should you even want to extend it to the driveways, it's 75. That yellow box indicated on the screen is generally where the V&T law prohibits parking, no standing and no parking in front of the stop sign, going in the northbound direction only. So that gives you just a graphical. If you really wanted to, the highway department could go out, in the weeks ahead and just post that one 30 feet in accordance with the V&T law. But the resident is asking for further than that. With that, I'll turn it over back to the board.
Okay, with that, we will open it up to Thomas Redkowski, who signed in for this item. Did you want to speak? You can-
Tom Burkowski. I've lived at Steinway Court for 4 years right now. We love the location. It's a very private street. It gives us, opportunity to get to and from very quick off of Maple Road. So many, many times we've come off of Maple Road to turn left if you're coming east to west off of Maple. And there's a car parked on the east side where we have to navigate the cars coming head on Maple Road and then turn quick as possible to get into Steinway Court. Well, if that car is there, we know the car's in that 40-foot marker there, okay? Well, if a car is coming up Steinway the other way, he goes over the center line and I become like a head on when I zoom onto Steinway Court. So there's the concern there. The other thing is that in the summertime, we have multiple contractors that do landscaping and they're pulling trailers. So if there's a car anywhere near that house on the right, leaving Steinway Court, he can't navigate around that car safely to come up to a stop sign because the trailer is sticking out over the side. So he just sort of blocks the intersection until he's ready to go. It's just insane. So, and then people park that car. There's a white car that parks there. He sits there for hours. They're waiting for their child or they just walk away. I don't know, but the car doesn't stay there with a person and sometimes the car is abandoned. It's insane. So multiple things can happen here without no notice because we're worried about getting in and out at Maple Road, but we have to worry about somebody zooming off at 40 mile an hour coming up Maple. Either way you get hit, So just thanks for listening. Okay.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
And is it Dan Lockie? Lockie?
First, I'd like to thank the board for considering my application for the no standing signs. I won't go over the reasoning that I put into the letter, but I did want to add a couple extra points to that. I really appreciate that picture because that street's never looked so wide. When there's cars parked on both sides of it, it really bottlenecks it to, there's only one lane left to drive through, and it really just increases the hazard. The other thing is that Steinway is basically a patio home neighborhood. That is that the houses are mostly smaller than the other residential neighborhoods. They're actually range between 1,800 and 2,500 square feet. The reason I say that is because when there's guests, visitors, parties that are going on there, there's less parking area throughout the street. And when those cars, those vehicles are apt to park towards the end of the street where they can't find something directly near the residence that they're going into, it causes a problem. Like Tom mentioned, we also have a problem with contractors during the summer as well. So please take that into consideration when, and I do ask for, my application does ask for no standing signs on both sides of the street. Because even with one car there, it's still, you're down to almost 2 lanes. And I did measure the street, it's 25 feet per Amherst code. So, but it seems a lot tighter at times. The other thing I also wanted to mention that I checked the other streets in the area. Exeter has no standing signs on it, as well as Briarhurst. So there is a precedent in that immediate area where there are no standing on both sides of the street. Okay? Thank you very much for your consideration. Any questions or concerns?
Sorry, what'd you say the width was?
25 feet.
So just to point out to the board, if that were to be constructed today, the current standards are 28 feet wide.
So just one quick question
Yes.
for you. The two houses, neither of you live in the houses that are on the corner.
No, we do not.
And are the residents that live on the corner aware of this request?
I did not approach them. I actually sent out texts and emails to 11 of the domiciles and got responses from them. Out of the 21 houses on the street, 2 are vacant, and which leaves 19 houses, and I reached out to 11 other houses. I could have walked the street. I have to admit, I didn't, but I'd be more than happy to reach out to them if you would like me to.
No, that's okay. Just curious. We'll get into that. Any other people in the audience this evening to speak on this item? None being heard, we'll close the public comment period and open it up to the board for discussion. As Chris already stated, if this was built today, it would be at 28 feet. So the road is 3 feet narrower than current standards in the town. So it does choke that down a little bit more than other streets. That's why we're calling that out on there, because today's code is 28 feet. Also, reason for the ask on the 2 residents on the corner of the street, since this does take, that this is adjacent to their property, normal precedence of this board is that we would not take any action until the people whose property that it's directly adjacent to are contacted for their comments into the particular item. If they respond to us, they respond to us. They may come to a meeting themselves, but it never goes over well when this board takes action and they get the notice from the town board that something's going to happen on their property. So normal precedence is that we would probably hold this item until those residents are notified of the request for something that is adjacent to their property, to hold this item until January for them to have the opportunity to come to the meeting. If you would have said that you talked to them and they were in favor, that's why the reason for that, ask for that question. So with that, I'll open it up to the board here for further conversation. We can move forward with the recommendation and then the notice to those residents. We can provide that to them, that that's the action that we're recommending, and that we'll hold the item for the January meeting for further discussion before taking action.
So what's the story with that white car? The white car that's there all the time? You say it's there like every day?
I would say that it's there regularly. I mean, it just, as a matter of fact, in the letter packet that I forwarded to you, that same car was actually on the other side of the street, but parked again inside of the lamppost towards Maple Road. So I'm not sure if it belongs to the house at the end. I would assume it does, because if you look, the house on the left of the picture there, that couple are elderly. They hardly ever come out of their house. I also run the block party, so I know all these residents. So,
What I'm thinking is that car might be like I don't want to say service car, but perhaps a nurse or an aide that they hire, that they're parking there?
no,
No?
that is not true.
So Chris, can we go to, are you on Google Earth right now? You know, you're in your image. Can we go to Briarhurst and Exeter real quick? The resident mentioned that they have the signs already existing.
Exeter also.
Exeter and Briarhurst. Should be 1 and 2 blocks over, right?
Exeter is the next road over. That's Falmouth.
Briar.
That's Briar, yes.
That's gotta hurt the trees. There we got a sign.
Another one here. Another one right there. So because those driveways are, that's pretty far. And then can we just check the same on Exeter?
Towards Exeter.
It's back towards Steinway. It's that one right there.
Mhm.
So there, I guess my point here is that we have two other streets that are flagged the same way. I would move that we do this street the same way as well. Obviously, it's a common occurrence in that area with the speeds coming off of Maple turning onto those streets. I think the only question is, do we want to go to the light pole? Do we want to go the standard 35, or do we want to go 75 all the way to the driveway? If we only went to the light poles, there would be enough space for one car on probably both ends of those driveways to still
Yes.
allow parking there. So I would be in favor of just mounting the signs on the existing light poles. So I'll make that motion to recommend the installation of no parking on both sides of the street for 40 feet to where the existing light poles are.
Chairman,
Yes.
the resident's asking for a no standing. The difference between no standing and no parking is, the people that are dropping off the kids for the school bus can sit there currently, where the no standing would be more prohibitive. What is it, Captain? Does no standing allow discharge of passengers?
Yes, it does for unloading deliveries and discharge and pick up of passengers.
So I'm just pointing that out if you want to change your resolution.
So can we make it no standing pending hearing back from the two neighbors at the corner? If we don't hear any response or unfavorable response, then we can just go ahead. Otherwise, we'll just have no parking and make it explicit as it's supposed to be in that yellow area.
Well,
Yes, we can do whatever we want right now. I think the motion, we're not gonna, even the motion that I have would be held before we refer it to the town board for action till the January meeting so that we could notify those residents. So we will get to talk about this again at the January meeting.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, there's people picking up and dropping off their kids on the corner for the buses?
Yes, the reason I asked for the no standing was specific to that, as well as, like we said, we have lawn cutters that come in and they'll station their equipment there. We have one gentleman who, for some unknown reason from our street, who almost every morning sits at the corner there and waits for either for a friend to come by or something. I mean, it's idiotic why they have to sit right at the end. I mean, it's apparent that so that's why I'm asking for no standing, because any sort of obstruction that's there just creates a hazard. So I would personally prefer, along with the people that I solicited, for no standing rather than no parking.
So Captain, you said for no standing, they would still be able to discharge or they would not?
If it just says no parking,
They can still,
either occupy the vehicle or discharge and pick up passengers.
okay.
So you probably want to make it no parking or no standing.
Okay, leave it up to the others on this board, what we would recommend. No standing or no parking?
I'd personally be okay with the no standing and mounting it on the light poles pending the input from the directly impacted resident.
Any further conversation? So do I have so the motion would be, as Greg just stated, installation of no standing on the light poles for the 40 feet to the corner, pending notification of the residents to hold for the November meeting for their input if they wish to attend.
Just to clarify, 40 feet from the current stop sign, if you say corner, you should use
I'm sorry, yes.
58.
40 from the current stop sign to mount them on the light poles.
I have
We're not putting another pole in the ground.
one last question. What about the contractors, the lawn contractors who are parking? and
Yeah,
not
I don't,
standing?
I don't think that would affect that, right? A
You
no
can't park-
parking,
You can't park
yeah.
in a standing,
N-
in a no
n-
standing.
You
yeah.
can't park in a no
I-
standing zone?
yeah, either one would work for that situation. I think,
Okay, so you can't park in a no standing zone and you can't stand in a no standing zone, but you can stand in a no parking zone.
Correct,
Okay, so if a no standing, it covers both.
yes.
Is that clear to everybody who sees that sign? It wasn't clear to me who sits on the board.
yes, that's more restrictive.
Yes.
Yeah.
We would hope.
I'd
Can't
hope.
guarantee it. So-
Now I'm trying to look up to see if there's no
There's no stopping sign too, is there?
Those, in my mind, are two distinctly different actions.
Yeah, you're right.
That's just a special Tonawanda thing.
No.
Their own book. Eric, you're proposing to go 40 feet from the stop sign? To,
Yes, per the drawing that Chris has.
what's wrong with going to the end of the driveways?
We would leave one parking spot in front of the residents' houses from the driveway to the no standing zone.
Well, it looks like they have wide driveways there.
I just think if we,
I think you're,
if we completely restrict the parking in front of the resident's house, I think there's gonna be more opposition from the residents, so to ease the burden on the resident at that house, because they would have no parking in front of their house based on where their driveway is and then where the next driveway is.
I'm good with 40 feet.
well, I imagine they don't like the contractors parking in front of their houses. No, I wouldn't.
There wouldn't be enough room for the contractor. They'd be blocking their driveway.
They get pretty inventive on my street.
Well, they also have wheeled mowers that they can park at the end of the driveways and wheel them over to the lawn. It's not hugely restrictive for them.
This is really striking out tonight.
We need halftime entertainment. Captain? No hitchhiking. Where'd that one come from?
I'm just waiting for Chris to see if he has clarification on the sign.
I personally feel like the no standing is. They just made up that sign.
Oh, Chris, actually, could you scroll up? It's explained if you scroll up, it's right there.
Yeah.
No, see, there are two different actions. There's no parking and no standing, and one does not cover the other.
No, no parking covers no parking, or no standing covers no parking.
It says, well, no standing indicate that vehicles are not allowed to stand. Where does it say not allowed to park?
Well, if you want to look at the,
Because if you're parked, you're still standing.
yeah, this is just the AI kicking it out.
Okay.
More
So
definition.
it's smarter than I am, huh? I don't know, because I was.
Okay, so
Ah, here it is, finally. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Yeah, because like you just said, the no standing takes care of no parking, so you
All
wouldn't
right,
want,
okay.
it would be confusing if you put no parking and no standing.
I agree.
So that's why there's no sign.
Okay, I get it, It's just.
Somebody tell Tonawanda.
So are we going, right now it's for the 40 feet from the stop sign, is
No parking 40 feet from the stop sign?
no standing,
No
40
standing.
feet from the stop
No
sign.
standing 40 feet from the stop sign.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So motion carried. Fran, did you vote?
Or,
Helene, I'm sorry. Okay. So motion carried, 7-1.
Yeah, did we get a second?
Cynthia was the second.
oh, perfect, yep, sorry.
Okay, so where that stands right now is we're recommending the installation of a no standing sign 40 feet from the stop sign to the existing light poles on both sides of the street. We will provide that notification to anyone that is within, what is it normally, Chris, 600 feet? So it'll probably do the street, just to let them know that we're looking at taking that action, to make sure that we hit those two residents that are there, that will be reviewing this and holding this for the January meeting. And if there's no resident opposition in the January meeting, we'll just pass it along to council members of Cala for the town board to take action to install the signs appropriately. Okay? Yep, thank you. Next the next item on the agenda that we'll review tonight is item number 2, which is Bernhardt for speeding concerns.
All right, so a resident brought to our attention that there is speeding occurring on Bernhardt and furthermore asked for speed humps. I explained to the resident that the town does not install speed humps at this time, but the Traffic Safety Board would take on her concerns and discuss it at today's meeting. And we do have some data to show. Should have been just disseminated in your package, but we've asked Highway to count 2 locations to date. They've only been able to count this one on this between Coolidge and Kings on Bernhardt. The volume in the southbound direction is 289 with an 85th percentile speed of 31 miles per hour. The northbound's a tad bit higher at 34 miles per hour with a little less volume at 234. Like I said, the counts are pending the discussion tonight. If you want them to go out and collect additional counts between Coolidge and Main Street, they're more than willing to do that. If you dive into the actual speed counts, you'll see that just a small handful of people are traveling in excess of in that 50 mile per hour range at 3 going in the northbound. Southbound, you only just had a couple going over 40. Looking at the volume chart, nothing stands out. You've got peaks at the 8 a.m. hour and ramps up around the 4 o'clock hour. And looking for speeds over 40 miles per hour, it averages about 1.6 vehicles at the highest hour. So not a tremendous amount of people traveling over 40. With that, in terms of accidents, I did collect that as well. I think I did 5 years. We do have 3 accidents. The one closer to Main Street was on Main Street, so ignore that one. There was one that I did not have a report on. The other one was just a paper truck hitting a parked vehicle, and the other one was a stolen vehicle driving up on a lawn. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the board.
Okay. First person signed in for this evening is Val Libatori. If you want to speak in a different order, there's 3 people signed in. I'll leave that up to the 3 of you to sort that out. You can just, if you, anything you want to say, you're.
No, I'm surprised that what you collected isn't what I see. I mean, our house is right there at the 3-way stop sign. And which one? Hello? Yeah, we're right at the 3-way stop sign, and it just seems like every other car just flies right through. They don't even slow down.
So the
I'm
cars
just
are.
a witness all day long, every day of the week, you know. And these are my neighbors. This is my husband, and there's a preschool across the street, and there's toddlers there. And on the weekend, it's very busy with all kinds of groups, and it's a concern. And I see your data isn't outrageous, but I would be happy with speed bumps, and I think that's the only thing that we can do there. We had a lot of signage. I asked for the signage. I asked for the stripes, but it's not really doing anything at all. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on the item this evening? With that, none being heard or seen, we'll close the public comment period and open up to the board for further conversation.
It seems to me we have people ignoring the stop sign.
So as we discussed at the beginning of the meeting, stop signs are traffic control devices, and they are not speed control devices. The other issue that we have in the town is that there are numerous unwarranted stop signs within the town. And if you look at the vehicle counts that we have on the street, the major leg of the road is Bernhardt. Coolidge would be the minor leg of the road. Normally for, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, But when you're looking to install a stop sign, you'd be looking for the major leg to have vehicle counts over 300 vehicles per hour.
That's correct.
Right, so you'd be looking for the vehicle counts to be, you have 238 cars over the court, or is that
No, that's-
534?
534 in both directions.
530, you have 534 in both directions over the course of the day. For the installation of that all-way stop sign, you'd be looking for 300 cars coming through that intersection during a 3-hour period.
You take 8 hours, so you need 300 per hour for the highest 8 hours of the day. So we're looking at 53, 51, 46, 45, 45. So you need these numbers up here to be over 300.
So if you came before this board today asking for a stop sign to be installed in that intersection, per the MUTCD that we reference, the warrants aren't there for that stop sign to be installed. So the reason why you have the compliance issues with the stop sign is because the people that are driving that street, the 534 cars, 200 whatever in each direction, are most likely a high amount of residents that live on the street or access Coolidge or something that they're driving that street on a regular occurrence. And they basically know that there's not a car on Coolidge at the stop sign. So they're slowing down maybe a little bit for it, but they know there's not a car there, or they're just going right through it because they know there's not a car there. We have videos that multiple intersections on unwarranted stop signs, so we know exactly what you're talking about because we see this similar complaint at numerous intersections where you install the unwarranted stop sign.
And it's extra dangerous. Oh, I'm sorry.
And I was going to say, when it comes to the speed humps, as we said, the town at this point has not taken any action to install the speed humps. Any of the streets that we have taken into consideration, you'd be looking for that 85th percentile speed to probably be closer to about 10 miles per hour over the speed limit on the street. And you'd be looking for traffic counts probably significantly higher than what we're seeing on this particular street. The recommendation that we would almost make for the solution to the problem of people running the stop sign on the street, since it is an unwarranted stop sign, would be for the removal of the stop sign. So you have, that's part of the problem with an unwarranted stop sign, is that the children and pedestrians will see the stop sign and make the assumption that the car is going to stop at the stop sign. That's a problem with an unwarranted stop sign. So by removal of the stop sign, you are actually making the intersection safer because the people, the pedestrians, children that are there are not seeing the stop sign and are now assuming that the car that's driving down the street is going to continue to drive and not stop. Those are what all of the traffic studies say. I would encourage you to review on all of the information that's available online from traffic studies that have been done regarding the unwarranted stop signs. There's plenty of them that are online and posted out there that will go over those situations. I'm not saying at this point that this board is recommending the removal of the stop sign, because I can also guarantee that if we made that recommendation to the town board has, in the years that I've been on this board, never taken action to remove a stop sign in the town. So we don't even really bother to go there. Sure, if you want to come up and speak.
Eugene Shaluga, Valerie's wife. We live on 136 Bernard. We had made a request one time years ago that maybe they could have a police officer stationed on the corner there. And that seemed to solve the problem for a while. If somebody sees a cop there, they may have more likely to stop for a stop sign, you know? And it seemed like that deterred a lot of the problem for a while. Could we have something like that happen for?
Cap.
Yes, I'll add it to our traffic plate report. Get some officers out there.
That would be great. If you could just do that, that would be great. Because there are certain people that we know that just blow right through it. I mean, we even have their license plate number. We're not going to do that. But, you know, there's certain cars that people live on the street, they just blow right through it. And if they saw a cop there, maybe they would stop them, you know?
Well,
thanks. Appreciate it.
you said it right there. People who live on the street. You said that people who live on the street?
Yeah.
They live on the street. You would think they would have the most interest in going as slow as they could to make the street safe, but they're ignoring it.
Especially they know that there's a lot of kids on the street, you know?
What Eric was saying about the stop signs, I know it's totally counterintuitive. You can't, you have to really wrap your head around this one, but the studies are there. If the people aren't expecting a stop sign, they're not going to react as if there's a stop sign. They're going to react like it's a truly dangerous street. Whereas the people who are driving through the stop signs make it dangerous because they're expected to stop and they're not stopping. It's counterintuitive.
And the people that are familiar with the street and the regular residents know that there's nobody at the stop sign when they get there, so they don't stop. It's extremely counterintuitive, but even if when Captain does go out there and they put an officer out there, most likely the people that will be pulled over and ticketed for running the stop sign if they catch somebody is going to be probably a resident of the street. It's not going to be a cut through car. It's not going to be somebody driving through, because the person that's not familiar with the street is going to see the stop sign and they're the person that's probably going to stop. Yep. I'll open it up to the rest of the board here for any further conversation. So with that, we will close the item and refer it to the police department for further enforcement. Yep. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. The next item that we have somebody signed in for is item number 1, Robin Road. No.
My grandmother lived on the street. In the first Mayor's development, my grandmother lived on the street on Little Robin Road. She used to live on Delvin across from the Chevy plant. I moved her out.
All right, Robin Road is item 1. Inside your package, you should see a correspondence from a resident who is complaining that there is speeding occurring on Robin Road, and has asked for speed humps or some other solution to prevent the speeding. We do have some counts that are about 3 years old on this roadway. Those are shown in your screen as well as in the package. Last time it was counted, we have approximately 1,500 vehicles in both directions with an 85th percentile of 34 miles per hour, at least in the midsection counted. Up closer to the north, you've got a 30 to 31 85th percentile. The posted speed limit is 30 miles per hour. It is primarily residential, all residential, I should say. It does have walking trails in the rear, as Walton Woods Park is back there. And this neighborhood should look familiar to the board because you've just recently placed a lot of stop signs at T intersections where they were not placed. Beyond that, back in the last time this was reviewed, it was in 2021. And those minutes indicate that you suggested that the road, at least in the section in red, have a different striping configuration. Show you what that looks like. So right now it's about a 40-foot roadway section that has fog lines striped, but it leaves approximately 2 14-foot wide lanes. The Traffic Safety Board at that time suggested that it be narrowed down to 11 with a 3-foot buffer and a 6-foot wide shoulder to accommodate pedestrians and cyclists. And this is still something that we are trying to achieve. It has not been done yet, but we are working through various traffic calming projects, and we are going to look to see if we have some funding to do this in the upcoming year. With that, I'll turn it over to the board.
And we will open it up for public comment. And we have Mary Lou.
I'm allegedly having difficulty hearing with the humming. I have a bit of a hearing issue. But first of all, I want to thank you for following up on my concern, because I've lived there over a decade now, and I'm in the second cul-de-sac at the end on Robin Road, the second cul-de-sac, and that's, you know, where I'm hearing and seeing the speeding occur, and it's not only weekends, but it's also a lot during Sunday afternoons in the summer. And in hindsight, I thought I probably should have brought this to your attention earlier in the spring so that you could have had the readings to find out, you know, what the actuality is. And I'm not sure that I understand, because the people that were concerned about their speeding issue, I saw numbers and speed limits and that. So I'm just curious of what the results were. That's why I'm here. This is my initial presentation, and I just want to know how to follow up and what we can do to make it a bit of a safer community. Personally, I would not be in favor of speed humps. I don't know what you do to stop speeders, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of them are residents, because as you know, it's a mixed community. So we have owners, we have tenants, we have a lot of children, toddlers, seniors, disabled people, veterans, and wildlife. So that's the reason that I wanted to make the initial inquiry, to find out what the results are, what we could do, and if we didn't get great results now, maybe we should be looking at it in the summer.
Okay.
I will note that the counts shown on the screen are from November of that year.
I don't know if any signage awareness would make a difference. I heard you tell them, and I agree with you, to people that are going to speed. And as I said, some may very well be residents or tenants. And I think that people also cut through from John James Audubon up Sylvan Parkway and through Robin Road as a shortcut to Dodge or to Stall or to others. So, I mean, I just want to bring it to the attention because I think it's a serious issue. Hey, we have to work with it.
All right, thank you. Anyone else to speak on this item? None being
the
heard or
only one
seen, we'll
here.
close the public comment. And so what this board has recommended based on the 2021 numbers is this proposal here. So this would be called a road diet. So if we, on the first item that we talked about, this item when we talked about the Steinway Court, the normal road width that you'd be looking, that the town would build a street to, is 28 feet wide. So that 28 feet wide road basically provides one travel lane in each direction. Well, it basically becomes 3 lanes of traffic. So it allows for a car to be parked on both sides of the street, and then it would allow for a car to still be able to navigate between the 2 parked cars, or allow an emergency vehicle to be able to drive down the street between 2 parked cars. All right, so you're looking for, by town code, to build the street at 28 feet wide. As you drive down a street, normal lanes of traffic on Maple Road, regular transit road, are about 12 feet wide. So when you get onto narrower roads, the 85th percentile speed is the speed that an individual is comfortable driving the road. The wider you make the road and the fewer obstructions you have on the road, the driver has a sense that they can drive faster because there's nothing obstructing them from driving.
Right.
So this street, for some reason, when it was built at 40 feet wide. That's basically wide enough to have almost 4 lanes of traffic, 2 lanes in each direction, because you can go as narrow as a 10-foot wide lane. So what this board is recommending is basically giving the street a road diet, because you're not going to cut the road down from its current 40 feet down to 28 feet, because it's just not going to, highway's not going to go out there and take the road and shrink it down. So what you'd be looking to do is to create a false sense of a narrower road, which is adding those shoulders to the road at 6 feet, installing a 2-foot safety buffer, which would basically be like adding a walking or a bike lane on the sides of the road. Now what that does is because those lines are on the side of the road and you have the center lane and you have the two cars now in an 11-foot lane, cars coming forward and at each other, they're now closer to each other. So now the cars are forced because there's obstructions on the road, cars coming narrower to them. That should slow the cars down. So you've seen these steps taken on, they took it on Union Road in the village of Williamsville, between Main Street and Worley. They took that from 4 lanes down to the 1 lane in each direction with the center turning lane. There was done also on Kensington Highway, and there's a couple other streets that this was done on as well. And what we see in those streets after we do those road diets is you see a speed reduction. Normally, Chris, what is it, about 2 miles per hour, 2 to 3 miles per hour?
Yeah.
In doing that. So the intent of this board is to do exactly that, and that's what we've referred to highway with their road striping funds and different safer streets and traffic calming measures, is to choke this road down and give it a narrower feel to the driver to in turn slow the cars down. That's the action that this board, when we reviewed it in 2021, felt would resolve the issue for this street as the best option based on the traffic counts and due to the width of the street.
Yeah, I was trying to understand that. And I think it's great because, again, it's a physically active community with bikers and walkers and
I
dog
believe,
walkers and,
I believe-
there's just constant pedestrian activity.
correct, and there's no sidewalks on this street, so when we reviewed this
Correct.
back in 2021.
And no
there was-
parking, so that's the other
Yeah, so
reason.
there was a request actually for them to be made into bike lanes on the side of the road, but the bike lanes are a little bit more restrictive. And the request was for just leaving them shoulders of the road, that gives more pedestrian access instead of just the dedicated bike lane for the walkers that are there, which also provides a little bit of a buffer as well from those cars for the pedestrians on the street because there are no sidewalks. So that's where this drawing and recommendation came from. Unfortunately, we're now in 2024 and it's
Right.
unfortunately, road paint is not cheap. And there's a long stretch to paint this whole thing. And that's what Chris and Highway are currently working on to try and find the funding sources through traffic calming measures to do this painting project.
Okay, so will you share the results of the study and the project with the Audubon Community Association so they're aware?
Chris, I
mean,
believe
I
that's
just
in
did
our,
this on my
I believe
own.
that's in our minutes here from 2021, that they were the ones that brought this to us, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
It was.
I can't remember, to be honest, if the resident coordinated with the homeowners association or not.
They did. I think they did.
Yeah, it was Lauren and John Robinson, it says here. Yep, and it says here in our minutes
Consult with them anyway.
that Lauren and John Robinson, 217 Robin Road, opened the discussion saying they contacted their HOA regarding the speed and adding the bike lane. All HOA members like the idea of adding the bike lane or walking lane, but some voiced opposition to adding additional signage. Mr. Robinson also had technical questions as to how the counts were conducted. So that is the plan that we'd like to see move forward, and then what we would do is we would recount that after that's done to determine what the calming effect is on the road.
Yeah, and just so the board knows, there's a traffic calming bucket of funding, and we've been drawing from that for your rectangular rapid flashing beacons, some of your other requests that you guys have made, but we've knocked those off, and I just have to do kind of an internal audit to understand how much funding is left, and this is going to be a project that we're going to be looking to use those excess funds on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Right. Thank you for attending this evening. Any other comments from the board? None being heard, we will close item number 1. And our next item on the agenda is item number 6 regarding Arcade Avenue speeding and cut-through traffic between Millersport Highway and Eggert Road.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have too much information on this one, other than the resident brought forward a request that he's observed some high speeds on Arcade, and those were from vehicles that were cutting through between Eggert and Millersport. And he's looking for targeted speed enforcement or to investigate speed humps. The only information I have, given that this was provided in late November, is crash records in which we don't have any in the past 5 years. That's all I have.
Okay, we'll open it up for public comment, and we have John Bozer.
So everyone, so I've lived on Arcade Avenue for about 5 years now. My neighbor Fred was actually unable to be here, but he has similar concerns. So this is a very, I would say, high AADT street, a lot more than your typical residential neighborhood. Actually, the pavement deterioration was so intense on the street. I used pictures of it for my master's level pavement design course, just because that high level of traffic just pounding it. I know with cars parked on both sides, you get natural channelization that slows people down, but every once in a while you'll get that odd car going 50 miles an hour down the street. But it's a very heavily trafficked road. In fact, I use it to cut through sometimes, but if you actually plug into Google Maps and say, take me from, let's say, Eggertsville Hose Company at 18 Egger Road to a Millard Fillmore Suburban Hospital, it'll actually tell you to take Arcade Avenue because it's faster than the light at the 6 corners. So I don't know what the best solution is. I mean, I just threw speed humps out there, but I mean, I think at the least sitting Amherst Police at the corner of Arcade and Akron, you'd get probably a lot of good tickets issued there. I mean, maybe there's some communication with Google to stop routing traffic down that way, but I defer to the board on how they think to best approach it. I just want to make sure it's not, make sure it's a safe community for my neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item this evening? None being heard, we'll close the public comment and open it up to the board for further discussion.
Can we get some counters out there to get volume and speed?
That would be the first thing that we would want, is to have highway install counters to see what the actual speeds are. Once we have those counts, that also then gives the police department data and information as to what the best hours are to potentially catch people speeding through the street. Most likely it's going to be between 4 and 6 p.m. and probably 7 and 9 a.m., which they're probably on the 290 dealing with cars on fire or something else, or accidents by the big blue water tower. Just bringing that up since I heard there was a little fire there this evening. I know this board also has placed numerous requests with DOT for the removal of these 6 corners and installation of a traffic circle in that area to improve the efficiency of that intersection or multiple intersections there. If something like that were to be done, that would probably be also something that would alleviate people cutting through on those streets. So it's a common concern that we have over there, but I would move and recommend at this point, just for us to get more information on it, that we refer it to Highway to install the traffic counters at their next convenience based on time of year that we're at with the weather. There's a break in the weather, they can get them out. Yeah, you want to do it at the right time. You're familiar with that. Is there anyone on the board that would object to holding this item until we have counts?
Seems to be the thing to do.
Greg, I do like this neighborhood area.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in agreement with that. And the one thing I would suggest is possibly Captain Persons. I know your fellow officers will station themselves outside of in the parking lot, usually of like Natalie's and Wings. I'm wondering if maybe occasionally they might consider stationing themselves kind of at that intersection instead, kind of trying to catch people, speeding in the other direction, and since they're already trying to identify speeders on Millersport, if their presence at the end of that street might deter people who might be cutting through from speeding in some sense. So just kind of like switching up the station at that point in the road, if that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we will hold this item until we have counts. Normally Chris is pretty good at people that brought the items to it, that once we get the counts to notify you. It might show on the agenda for January as being a held item, but I would recommend if you don't hear from Chris before you attend again, just reach out to him to see if we have the counts or if it's going to continue to be held. Okay? Yep. Thank you for attending this evening, and we'll hopefully see you again in January. With that, we have nobody else signed in this evening, so we will move to item number 4, Miller's Crossing Subdivision Traffic Control. This one should be a pretty clear-cut and easy one for us. We'll move through. Chris can give us the information, and then we can vote.
So for new members of the board, whenever there's a new subdivision being constructed. The Traffic Safety Board weighs in on where the traffic control devices should go. So this is Streamsong Court, which is part of Miller's Crossing. And New Road is a county road. They normally require the petitioner, the applicant, to place traffic control at the intersection. In this case, they did not, so they put it out. So we don't have to worry about this one. It's a T intersection, and there is a stop sign currently where my hand is on the screen. These two roads right here, I forget the names of them. Maybe Scott knows.
River Oak.
Yeah.
River Oak is what it shows on our map.
Anyways, these two little stubs are private roads. So we would not be responsible for stop signs on the private roads, but we still want your input on where they should go. If you were to recommend that that be an always stop, then yes, we would get involved stopping Streamsong. Al, do I have that right? You guys don't do stop signs on private roads? So we'll reach out to the petitioner and ask that they post that. I provided you a map of where I think they should go, but it's ultimately up to you. And we point to this after everyone moves in, it will come to us, and so somebody will say, why can't this be an always stop? And this is, I like to use this recommendation as a way to point to this and say that it's already been reviewed, and the recommendation is on the books. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you guys.
I would move to install the stop signs as indicated on our map provided by you, Chris, on both legs of River Oak Lane as is showing on the map. And it's just a one-way stop at the T.
Seconded.
And there's a second from Max. Any further conversations from the board? None being heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 9-0. Next item on the agenda is Chestnut Ridge Road, request for a mid-block crosswalk.
So a resident reached out and would like a crosswalk in the red box on the screen. You will note the sidewalk on the south side of Chestnut terminates at this location. And the resident believes that this is a good location for a crossing to get peds onto the north side. Looking at the sidewalk connectivity in this area, this is the only gap. This is highly used by students that walk to UB. I know we've looked at trying to put sidewalk to fill this gap. There are some complications with that, topography, utilities, obstructions, telephone poles. Not that that should deter you in trying to pursue one, but it is rather difficult. So the resident, as a stopgap measure, is suggesting a crosswalk. Since the delivery of your information, we have gone out and did a stopping distance calculation to determine, if this curve being to the west would be a problem. At the speed of 40 miles per hour, although it's posted 35, the 85th percentile speed that we have on record shows it more like 41. Therefore, AASHTO requirement for stopping distance is 305. This week we measured 477. So it exceeds that minimum distance. This is not the only criteria you should be using. You should look at everything, including volume, character, speeds, and make your best recommendation. With that, I'll pass it over to you.
The claim is the people are crossing here already.
Yes.
Do we know how many?
No.
And yeah, where are they going to?
You hit the mic, Scott? So what if they live here, Liberty Square Apartments? How do they get to UB and back? So they have to cross.
So the reason why they're crossing is because of is due to the missing leg of sidewalk, the missing section of the sidewalk, is the belief.
Yes.
However, when you look at the information that's provided, we also have a road that has a 85th percentile speed of 41 miles per hour with 4,800 cars on a daily basis.
That's 2016 data.
So the data could be higher than that now in the vehicle count.
Yeah, it's even more built out than then.
I mean, putting a mid-block crosswalk in and putting a mid-block crosswalk unprotected with that vehicle count and that speed concerns me.
You could do like one of the rapid flashing ones where they push the button to cross, but like I'd be thinking my natural instinct is get a vehicle count, get a ped count, but we're in the middle of winter and ped count's not going to be the best anyway. Could shelf it until the spring to try to do that.
And
It's
we would need some kind of count here before we take any action to see if there's actually people crossing.
Yeah. Though we wouldn't necessarily to once again ask politely for the sidewalks on the other side of the road.
Yes, so we can refer again to the town sidewalk committee for a plan to install sidewalks or refer, correct, Chris?
Yes, you can.
So
Of
all
course.
in favor of that action?
Aye.
What's the action supposedly?
To refer to the town's sidewalk committee for review for potential installation of sidewalks in the missing section at this leg.
How it counts.
So
First action is
It counts.
to install the sidewalk. The missing part of sidewalk.
yeah, because what's gonna happen is if we get counts inevitably in X number of months, we'll say we'll reinvestigate to see if the addition of the sidewalks corrected the problem. So then we'll end up waiting until the sidewalks get put in, you know. So the sidewalks is definitely the first step. I agree.
And then even if we do get pedestrian counts with the vehicle speeds, we'd need a speed count. We would need the counts on the street for the traffic, an updated traffic count and speed count. And we would want a pedestrian count as well to see if it's warranted. But even if we get to that point and there are a lot of people crossing there with the speed and the traffic volume, would we be recommending the installation of an unprotected crosswalk based on the speeds and traffic count?
I think it's a bad idea.
I agree.
So that would raise the question of, is it worth counting if we wouldn't recommend installing it anyway?
I am in favor of seeing if the sidewalks come to fruition and then seeing if that resolves the problem before taking further action. Because I agree. I mean, if we think the biggest problem is people just walking to the nearest like ability to get to the sidewalk, you know, in theory, it should be solved by putting sidewalks bilaterally on the road. Right?
Correct.
It's an ask, but what would be involved in building a covered crosswalk here? I don't know the exact word for it. A bridge, a walking, you can go up, then down.
A pedestrian bridge.
A pedestrian bridge. Well, I mean, is it cheaper to buy a pedestrian bridge or to have a lawsuit for some guy who got hit because there was a crosswalk there?
Would it be cheaper to install a pedestrian bridge, or if there's that many obstructions, would the bridge be cheaper than sidewalk?
Definitely sidewalk first.
There's just no room for a pedestrian bridge in that location. You need sufficient right-of-way, and it has to be ADA compliant, so there'd be no way to fit that in.
Should we do a
Telling you
tunnel,
that. No.
All right, so that's off the table.
like they have under Young's Road for the golf course?
Because if the people are going to cross there, whether we put a sidewalk there or not, people are crossing there now. The sidewalk's just going to make it easier, which means more people are going to do it.
No, I think what we're saying is we think the reason that people are crossing is to get to the sidewalk on the other side, because this part does not.
Okay, well, if they're not crossing here, they're just gonna cross further up the street. There's gonna be a crossing problem with people crossing Chestnut Ridge Road, whether it's here or 1,000 feet down where you put a sidewalk. People are gonna cross.
But if we put a crosswalk in, we are in turn encouraging people to cross in that area where it is potentially not safe for them to be crossing.
If we install the sidewalk, where would they cross?
They wouldn't. So,
Okay.
yeah, if this, okay, first off, the green is sidewalk. Let's just cover that. So the green stops here, picks up here. So if a sidewalk were to be connected here, if you're traveling on the south side of Chestnut, you'd continue all the way to your destination, which is Sweet Home, and then cross at the appropriate location, which is probably Flint. If you're on the north side, you do likewise, and then cross at the intersection where you're supposed to cross. I mean, yes, are people going to cross regardless on if this entire thing is sidewalked? Absolutely. But the sidewalk infrastructure, you could then point to and say, doesn't need a mid-block crosswalk because pedestrians should be crossing at stop signed intersections.
So,
It seems to me sidewalks on the south side are the solution then.
correct, that's what we believe. So I think the recommendation from Max at this point is to refer to sidewalk to see if it's feasible to install the sidewalk, because that is the preferred method to correct the issue, which would then take them to a better place to cross at a protected intersection. And then with that, we could wait for feedback from there, because trying to do a pedestrian count now and speed count now in the winter months isn't going to provide accurate numbers. We'd want to hold till the spring. So hopefully we could find out prior to spring, summer timeframe of 2025 if sidewalk installation is feasible. Right, so we'd want to do the count probably in April when UB is in session. And there would be the heaviest amount of pedestrians for UB. So Chris, can we refer to sidewalk, determine if there's any possible action, and then hold the item till probably March, which would then remind us to have counts done in April?
Okay.
Any further conversation on item number 5? With that, the last item of new business is 2025 Amherst Traffic Safety Board meeting dates. All members on this board except for one, correct, Chris, are active members for next year. Two have to be reappointed, correct? That doesn't matter to setting meetings.
So the item is not membership, it's
Right.
specific to
It's
meeting
specific
dates. So, yeah, Mike, I mean, we can talk about who's up, but I think we have one open vacancy that is up for 2024. And then Fran's term is up.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah, she did, but she took over for Jennifer, whose term was up.
Whose term is up, so she has to get reappointed. All right, so looking at the dates proposed are January 15th. That is due to the way the January 1st holiday falls on the Wednesday, so that would normally push to the second week of August, but it creates conflicts with other dates. So that's the reason for pushing to the 15th, which is actually the third Wednesday. And then we have, as indicated on the screen, February 5th, March 5th, April 2nd, May 7th, June 11th. We normally push to the second week in June because there is no July meeting. Then we go August, September, October 8th pushes to the second week due to Yom Kippur falling on October 1st. And then we move to November 5th and December 3rd. If there's no objections, I will make a motion to approve the recommended dates. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Cynthia. Any further questions, concerns, or comments from the board? All in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion carried 9-0. With that, we'll open it up to the board. Are there any new items that anyone on the board wishes to bring before the board for discussion? None being heard, we'll close the new business section of the agenda and we will move to old business. Item A, Heim Road, for count results that we requested.
So at the last meeting, Greg asked for some new counts on Heim Road. And we located a good location at house number 500. And the posted speed limit is, I believe, 35 miles per hour on Heim. Is that right? Or is it 30? Yeah, 35. The 85th percentile in the eastbound direction is 43 miles per hour. And in the westbound direction, it is 44 miles per hour. The total volume is just over 4,000, about 4,400, I should say. And you've got quite a bit number of speeders in the 7 and 8 o'clock hours, as well as the 3 o'clock hour. It peaks up to 40 vehicles in that 1 hour who are over 10 miles per hour. Just
Chris,
to
real
give you-
quick, can you go back to the map of where that was?
Yeah, that's what I was about to do.
All right, so people are going fast on Heim Road.
So we try to always focus mid-block away from intersections because turning vehicles obviously are going slower than through vehicles. So we thought this was an appropriate location. It is on a straightaway portion, not a curved section. It is a double yellow in that area. Any other questions?
Can you
Where are
just
the,
go-
where are
can
the
you just-
schools?
I was going to say, can you go back to the map real quick? How far is 500 from the school zone?
How far from the school zone you're asking?
Yes. Pretty far.
So the school is way over here.
Okay. No, the reason why I'm asking is because the speeds being 45 miles per hour at the time frame that they are, there's this posted school speed limit zone in that stretch area as well. So if they're going that speed and they were closer to the school zone, that would indicate that they're also going that speed through the school zone and speeding excessively through the school zone. But they're pretty far away from it, but my guess is they're still speeding excessively through the school zone as well.
Yeah, they're picking up 15 miles per hour in 900 feet, which is certainly possible, but.
Go ahead, Dan. I mean, Craig. Oh, Dan's gonna go first.
Lane width there. Or can you tell the lane width?
Well, they definitely stretch.
Same as the throughway.
So they feel like they're on the throughway.
State roads they try to make them all 12, including the throughway. And expressways. It's probably too wide.
Just to add a little bit of context to this too, I did when I made the initial recommendation to get the counts at the last meeting, I did not have on hand the original counts that were done when this item came up back in 2020 or 2021. So I actually did go back and look at the counts from 2021, and I looked at the locations that the counts were taken on, like the poles the specific polls that the counts were taken on back at that time. And we took the counts on poll 230, which I think roughly is equivalent to like roughly house number 230, and poll 69, which I believe when I looked, it was kind of difficult to tell on Street View, but I'm pretty sure that those polls are pretty much exactly where the current speed radar feedback signs are placed. So I just wanted to point that out, and that was my mistake for not looking that up in advance before I made that request. So it is, you know, the counts that we're looking at here are actually a little bit lower in speed, or sorry, the ones that were back in 2020 are a little lower in speed, but it's, you know, very far away from where those counts were taken. So I just want to put that into context.
Yeah, those counts were taken specific to the school zone and our beacon work. So, but I think you asked specifically to be up in a different section last meeting.
I didn't specify an area, and again, that was my mistake.
I still think it's helpful.
Yeah, just not a one-to-one comparison.
So, yes, the street is too wide, but we already have shoulders on the road. We're not gonna shrink the road down. It's not in a state where it's probably going to be milled and repaved to repaint it narrower. So you could make the argument, based on the speed counts that we're seeing, that the speed limit should be raised to 40 miles per hour. If the 85th percentile speed is showing that. Or the other action is to refer this to police for enforcement, since we have a high number of cars over 10 miles per hour at pretty much all day long.
We did, after last month, I did put it in for enforcement. I'm just looking to see what the results have been so far. But I don't think it's been overwhelming amount of speeders, but I'll have to check here.
Well, if we put in to raise the speed limit, the residents are gonna go nuts. They're gonna say, what? They're already going too fast at 35.
Yeah, I mean,
Now they're allowed to go 40, they're gonna go 45 and 50.
yeah, Greg said it the right way earlier. It almost looks like two roads, because where we took it, two different roads, right? Because where the old speed counts are, not only is that a school zone, I mean, if you look at like the actual physical nature of the road, it's just a lot more tortuous around there, right? Where we took it is the straight part of the road, and of course, it's just going to be higher speed. And there, I mean, what are you going to do? You're not going to change the road speed limit mid road. It wouldn't even make sense. It's just a tricky, you know. I don't know if anything can be done on this other than.
So the recommendation here is to continue to refer to Amherst Police Department for continued enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing you could do, and it would be too much, it would be expensive, would be you could put another one of the speed radar feedback in a different spot. But I mean, to what end? You know.
You can also put in, again, it's expensive. You put in like a 4-foot wide median down the middle of the street to force the traffic out.
You already have the
Yeah.
shoulders pushing it
Yeah,
in.
and I'm not
right
actually
now.
sure. I'm not sure how much you want cars closer to the shoulder when you're in an area where kids are walking to school anyway, right?
It would create the illusion that we want of closeness.
I know. I'm saying kids walking. You know, you don't want the cars closer to the sides. I think you probably want it closer. The cars closer to the middle.
Well, you couldn't put your turning lane in the middle of the road. Has to be wide enough for a vehicle.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not sure the exact distance of this median, but a median down the middle that's a physical. Make it sort of like a mini boulevard. If you know what I mean. But that's expensive.
Correct.
That may be something to think about when they remill the street to put that in, but.
It's a country road going through suburbia is what it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, how many of those do we have in this town? You got Brompton, you've got Park Club Lane, you've got this one. I mean, they're everywhere.
So what's our action here?
What is there to do?
So the action is to refer, the action I'm recommending at this point, from what I'm hearing, is refer to Amherst Police Department for continued enforcement and receive and file until such time we get further complaints from residents regarding speed on the street.
And remind me, last month, did we also, I know this isn't directly related to speed, but did we also recommend the installation of the high visibility crosswalk at the school?
Yes, that's been
Okay, okay. Yep, thank you.
Yep. And didn't we change the feedback signs? Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried 9-0. Any other old business to bring before the board for discussion?
I would just like to point out that Bailey Avenue between Romney and I don't even know how far up to the 290 is closed now because of construction.
Correct.
And they're doing also, was it northbound between Meyer and Romney is closed going north because they're doing construction on the east side. In other words, it's becoming quite problematic to get through around there. So we might hear complaints. Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah, that looks like the building is sewer. It's out there. People are probably gonna remark on it. It's probably actually calming traffic in that area, to be quite honest.
It probably is. Any other old business to bring before the board? None being heard, we will close the old business section of the meeting. We will thank our liaisons for attending tonight, except for Scott, who gets to remain with us. And we will go over site plans and rezonings. We'll thank Scott at the end.